What's going on, everyone? So I'm going through all the players on the Lakers roster that have played thus far and played significant roles for the Lakers this season, leading into the end of the All-Star break in the back half, second half of the season. Obviously, it's not the full back half because only 30 games left, but it's usually how it's looked at. The All-Star break is kind of the beginning before, the last half season push. And I want to talk about Jaxson Hayes, right? He's still 24 years old, still plenty of upside, still plenty of potential. He's a guy that, I've maintained. I really like him. I think he's a excellent player. I think there's still plenty of room for growth, potential, upside. He was a guy that I was really excited when we signed him alongside Anthony Davis. I thought that he could learn a lot from AD. Obviously, AD isn't on the team anymore. Jaxson Hayes has kind of gotten thrown into the fire. I still don't like him as your main center. I know a lot of people now think Jaxson Hayes is prime Dwight Howard, but I'm old enough to remember a couple weeks ago when those same people were like, dude, get Jaxson Hayes off this team. He better not be on this team by the time we get the trade deadline. We need a real center. We need this. We need that. And now a lot of people think Jaxson Hayes is the answer. I don't believe he's the answer. I still maintain the same thing I said months ago, year ago, the moment we signed him. I don't think he's a starting caliber center yet. He's the best option that we have currently. So, of course, he's going to get a lot of opportunity here going forward. But I do like him as your secondary. Like, if he was your backup, I really like him as, like, your third center. Like, different looks. Like, I would have loved if we had, say, a Mark Williams, and then you brought in, like, a Trey Jamison and then a Jaxson Hayes, where you're getting these different looks, right? Like, Mark Williams is, like, your skilled center, do a little bit of everything. He has the lob threat, the high flyer, but also is that big physical interior presence. Then you got Jaxson Hayes, who is the floor runner, high flyer, catching lobs, playing alongside Luka type guy. And then I think like a Trey Jamison would have been nice, just like your big physical kind of bruiser, right? You look at like the 2020 roster. That's something that I really would like. Obviously maybe not to that level, but something like that, right? Where Anthony Davis was your skill center, could do everything. Then you had JaVale McGee, who was that, the athletic lob threat, blocked the occasional shot, right? And then you had Dwight Howard, that was just the enforcer, the interior presence guy, the guy that was just giving the hard fouls and doing the dirty work. But Jaxson Hayes, as our main center, he is a guy that has a big role, right? Anthony Davis being gone means that it's time for Jaxson Hayes, and unless, obviously the Mark Williams deal, at the time of recording this, at least there hasn't been a resolution. I don't think that even if it does get resolved, I don't think it's going to go to where the Lakers are going to be forced to make the trade. I think what will ultimately happen is they'll just kind of be like, hey, figure it out in the offseason type thing. But you look at like Jaxson Hayes, and he's had some really solid games this season. He's had some solid games since he's came to the Lakers, right? I mean, I think back like last year in like that Boston Celtics game where, you didn't have Anthony Davis or LeBron, and Jaxson Hayes was just very good. You look at the recent stint against some of these teams, and like you look at, for example, the Indiana Pacers game, right? He had 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, gave you 9 points. His rebounding still a little bit of a concern. He like, for example, in that Utah game, right? Not the last one where we got blown out, the one where we blew them out, because obviously Jaxson Hayes got hurt in that previous one. The other one where we blew him out, he had 2 rebounds, right? Like, I like to see him rebound the ball better, especially as your center. But so far, you look, kind of go over his stats for you. 17.6 minutes, which I imagine is potentially going to increase here. I do think the Lakers are going to run a lot of small ball. I think you're going to see that unless, again, the Mark Williams trade goes through. But if not, I think you're going to get a lot of small ball from Jaxson Hayes. He's averaging 17.6 minutes per game. He's shooting 70% from the floor, 3.4 attempts per game, which, again, I think is going to go up. Playing alongside Luka, but we'll touch on that here in a moment. Getting 71.6% from the field on 3.3 attempts. Technically has 0.1 attempts from 3-point range because he took like a 3, like when the shot clock was going down. I think he's had like 2 of those. Missed them both, if I'm not mistaken. EFG of 70.2%. Free throw shooting, 73.9% on 1.5 attempts, so 74%. Good free throw shooter. 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Will be nice to round up to a full steal because it's over 0.5, 0.6 if you want to be exact. 1 block per game and 6 points. Right now he's a 6-4 guy. If he's going to be our main starter, I'd like at least 7 to 8 rebounds, ideally. Can he double his rebound total? That would be nice if he could do that. If he could be a 7 to 8 rebound guy. Problem is he's just a career 3.8 guy. The most rebounds he's ever averaged in a season is 4.5, and that was on 20 minutes of action. That's also the most minutes he's ever played on average in a season. This season is the second most he's ever averaged in a season. But you look at some of the others, like last year, in 12 and a half minutes, he averaged 3 rebounds. So if you were to double that, could he give you 6, right? Ideally 6 to 8, I guess. I think with Luka, the potential of his offense is much higher. That same year that he averaged 20 minutes per game, he was a 9 and 4.5 guy. So we'll just call it 9 and 5 guy. I could see him being like a 10 to 12 point a game guy, right? And if he, like I said, if he could be a 12 and 6 guy as a starter, right? Just catching 5 or 6 lobs. I mean, he was 6 of 6 the other night for 12 points because Luka and LeBron were just throwing it up to him, and he was just getting up there. And because he is such a high flyer for the center position, has such good athleticism, he's able to just kind of go get up and go get it and clean it up. And I do think that that's something that could go a long way for the Lakers, right? Having Jaxson Hayes just like the cleanup guy for them. If he could get, 5 or 6 lobs a game, right? Or let's say, say 4 lobs and then, you get a putback or something, or, just like a pick and roll, or, right? Like, I think he could get anywhere from, especially shooting 70%, because again, it's all like lobs. I think he could get you probably around 10 to 12 points per game now that Luka is involved. And I imagine Jaxson Hayes is going to play a ton with Luka because Luka really likes that outlet as a big man, that high-flying big man. So I do think a lot of the time that Luka is out there, particularly without LeBron, I think Jaxson Hayes is going to be out there. I could see more small ball with LeBron, right? Where LeBron is kind of at the 4 or the 5, and then you're kind of operating that route. And then when Luka's in the game, you have Jaxson Hayes, who is just feeding off of Luka all night. So I do think Jaxson Hayes' production is going to go up. I do think he's going to be a lot better. I do think Luka's going to make him look a lot better than he is. Again, I really like Jaxson Hayes. I just don't like him for 25 minutes a game as your starter, right? Like, and I've talked about it, and I've broken it down, and we've gone over it in the past, right? But he's one of those guys in, like 12 to 15 minutes of action, probably closer to 12. He's excellent, right? Because he's high energy, high effort, running the floor, right? He can block the occasional shot. He can do a lot in short spurts. But you've seen the longer he's in the game, the more and more he starts to look like a liability at times, right? And that's where my problem is, right? A great example would be like Taurean Prince last year, right? When Taurean Prince played, it was like 14 minutes. The Lakers were like one of the best teams in all of basketball. But as soon as like he played that 15th minute, the Lakers were one of the worst teams in all of basketball, right? There's just some guys that are just really good in like a specific window, right? And Jaxson Hayes, in my opinion, is one of those guys right now. That doesn't mean he can't improve. That doesn't mean he can't get better. Again, he's 24 years old. I'm okay if the Lakers want to keep him long term. But again, like you saw with Koloko in that Jazz game, the second one, right? He was like, he's the guy you look at and you go like, okay, he's a better version of Jaxson Hayes, in my opinion. Right? Some people might feel otherwise. I think if you just watch Christian Koloko and then watch Jaxson Hayes, I think it's very apparent. I think it's very clear that Koloko is just a more disciplined, better defensive Hayes, right? He just is. And so I would prefer Christian Koloko. The problem is that, you're unless you end up waiving or getting rid of Jaxson Hayes, which I don't think they're going to do. You're not going to bring in Koloko at this point, right? Like you got Alex Lynn, got Jaxson Hayes, and Alex Lynn I think you need because of his size, right? I know he was awful, but you need his size right now. I still probably would have went with Trey Jameson. That's just my opinion. But Jaxson Hayes, again, I like Jaxson Hayes. I don't want to undersell Jaxson Hayes. We're going to get to see a very heavy dose of Hayes on the second half of this season. I do think, given the role and the circumstances and, his production thus far, I do think he's been very good. I do like what we've seen from him. And I do think he deserves a ton of credit for stepping up, right? I don't want to undersell him and the credit that he deserves, but it is, again, a little concerning. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions either way down in the comments. What do you think about him? What do you not? Let me know. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit this like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.